Good morning. How are you, Sarah?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. I can't believe we're winding down this
I was just
book.
gonna say that. It's crazy.
We have two more chapters. It's like
After this, yeah.
after this, it's crazy. Okay, so today is chapter 14, Empowering Ourselves, which, to me, this chapter, first of all, it's very long, but it really is speaking to the work we're actually doing in our personal lives. And so I really read it, like
I did
absorbed a
too.
lot of it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what do you think? And first off, starting off, I want to just say what she says here at the beginning. In writing about, and this is Nancy Verrier, of course, the
Hmm.
primal wound. For those on YouTube, here it is. In writing about the primal wound, I wanted to reiterate that the original trauma is abandonment as experienced by the child. The problem is not adoption.
Right.
Adoption,
I'm glad she clarified
me
that.
too.
Yeah.
Because that gets into a whole thing we discuss. Adoption has attempted with greater or lesser degrees of success to be the solution to a problem, the problem of unplanned pregnancies. This is assuming, of course, that adoption is seen as an institution which seeks parents for babies who have to be separated from their first mothers, and not as an institution which seeks babies for childless
Yes.
couples.
Yes.
We
That was
must
a great
keep this
distinction.
clear.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
She's such a good writer, too. It's like,
She
boom.
really is. Yes.
Yeah. So continuing on, what did you think right at the start of this chapter?
Well, also where it says the wound affects adoptees all of their lives and greatly impacts their relationships with others as they go through the life cycle.
Yeah.
A lot of this like just made me think back over the years and my relationships and just not having any of this knowledge. Again, I say this every episode, but just how life changing it would have been if I'd read this at a different point in life, or if my adopted mom had read it, or anybody that was like close to me in my life that would have a better Becker's dad, that would have a better understanding of
Oh
what
my
made me
gosh.
tick,
Yeah. I
rather
went
than
to
just, oh, you've
Mhm.
got intimacy issues. Or
All
uh,
of it.
I remember my mom saying to me once, if you walked into a room and there were 500 men, 499 of them were available, you'd choose that 500 that wasn't, which, I mean, yeah, we could laugh about it, but
Yeah.
there
It's
was a
like
reason.
there's a reason. And now we're understanding the reasons. I know I had the same experience with people I was in relationships with. I wish they had this knowledge and I had this knowledge to have a healthier relationship, because something she talks about in here, which is probably jumping around a little, is how we blow it up. We blow
Mm-hmm.
something up. We're self-sabotagers. So you'll be going along in a pretty decent relationship with someone who knows nothing about your past traumas, and I didn't even know what they were. And then all of a sudden you're sabotaging it because you're not good enough underneath. And they're like, what is wrong with you? And
Yeah,
it's
you
when
don't
you
feel
get
worthy.
you don't feel worthy. And it's when you get intimate that this happens, not like the beginning when it's kind of easy.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was thinking a lot about, my ex-husband or a boyfriend in high school or college. And I'm like, geez, I wish I could go back and say, sorry, this is the issue here. Not that they didn't have their issues, by the way. We got to pull
Right.
those in there.
Yeah.
But they were probably drawn to me for those issues. And I was drawn to them. What
Hear
is that?
noise. I
Hold
don't
on.
know. What is it?
Hold on.
Yeah, it's that unworthiness. And like, and it's what I like about this chapter is like giving solutions to challenge the belief, I was
Yes.
unwanted, therefore I am unworthy, which is,
It's exactly the line, right?
yes.
There was something she said about holding the baby. Do you remember that? She said for anybody,
Oh
one of
yeah,
the hindrances,
challenge this belief to
yes,
hold a baby and ask yourselves how bad you think a baby can be,
yeah, hold the baby is, can this baby be so bad that I have to throw it away? Is it so unwanted? And kind of say, that was me. Am I that? Like, that's not, you have to make yourself, she said, this takes effort, commitment, and energy to heal being the victim role and to heal going forward. Like, you actually have to make a conscious effort because it's not
Mm-hmm.
who we are, it's behavior.
Yes.
Behavior is different than personality, which she's a therapist that helped me understand, like, just because you're feeling vulnerable, you do these things. That's actually not, your personality is a great thing. You are who you are. You're amazing, but the behavior can be modified. It just takes a lot of work.
Well, then she said, even if, oh, Woody, sorry, my dog is, that even if, act as if, right? Because even if you can't afford to get the therapy you need or but just start acting as if that you feel that you're worthy, and act as if you're not a victim, all that stuff, that's cognitive behavior, really.
And you and I talk about that, how we, in talking to ourselves positively and how we change behavior is, if we'll say something negative, let's not say that about ourselves. We have to say a positive thing. And also owning up. She said, you have to also own up in your issues and say, you can't, because some people do use the victim role as, well, I don't have to succeed. There's some drama attached, she said.
Drama, yes. So
I like that.
Acting out is exciting. I can't help it is the way we put it. Well, we can't help the feelings exactly, but we can help the behavior, you know.
Can help the behavior. And then it helps you with someone you're in a relationship with. I have that with my husband now, where I'll be like, okay, I'm retreating. And she says, look inward. Is this a normal retreat? Like, is this the reason you should be retreating? So I'll stop myself and literally be like, why am I doing this? And I'll say to my husband, okay, I need a minute because I'm doing some sabotaging here. And he's like, oh, so glad you're reading the Primal Wound.
Yeah.
Because it helps. It makes me actually stop and take a look at things like, why am I doing that? And I just think it's an amazing book. I mean, just everything I've gained from this podcast as well.
I should put a disclaimer on my dating profile. Adopted. Read The Primal Wound if you want to get involved.
Adopted, but going through the work.
Yeah. Adopted, but going through the work.
And she also
vaccinated, adopted, but going through the work.
Vaccinated. That makes me laugh. I actually saw holiday ornaments you could buy online, which is a digression with people with little masks on. It says, we're vaccinated, and you put your names. I'm like, who would hang this on your tree? Do we really now need? I almost got them to be funny for people, but I don't want to spend the money because it's
so funny.
Really, do we have to remember this with a fondness of a Christmas ornament?
I
know. She also gets into the birth mother is going to have all this shame and trauma as well.
Yes. I like her, the way she broke down the difference between shame and guilt too.
Yes.
You know, that, where is that section?
I think it's right on 183. She says something about that. She needs to, birth mothers are not immune from this kind of belief system. Because they gave up a child, many birth mothers consider themselves bad mothers, undeserving of having another child, or unable to be good mothers to their own children. This belief persists regardless of circumstances. And so she says, if we have lives of regret, like think of all the mistakes we made, and you're young. Most people are pretty young when this happens.
Mm-hmm.
And when you give up a baby, that was the situation you were in, and you have to forgive yourself for it to grow. And she says that's probably the hardest thing, is just knowing that's not me, that's my situation that controlled it.
Right.
And that's got to be hard. I mean, we've heard from birth mothers how hard it is. So,
and then it's, then she goes on to, acknowledgement, and then the mourning the loss, and that can be at any point in life. If you didn't get to that earlier in life, then it's, whenever it is, but at some point needing to mourn that loss.
Yeah.
On all, in all aspects of the triad,
I'm just learning a lot about mourning myself, and I take time to mourn now. I think I used to, as we all do probably in our culture, brush over feelings of that. Now I try to sit with it and go, I'm sad today. It's okay to be sad. Sad for ourselves too. We were a little baby, or sad for things we wish we had known then or not. And you can take time to mourn and reflect on it. And it's okay to be sad, because you actually get better by looking at it directly, which is not easy, obviously, for anybody to do.
No.
One thing she said that I liked how she involved herself in this, because every so often you get a glimpse into Nancy. She said she was reaching out here, this part. I in the beginning, before I understood what was going on with my own daughter, I definitely used to react to her and not respond maturely.
Yes.
So I thought of adopted parents in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's only it reinforced her faulty beliefs about herself rather than challenging them and helping her heal. I was reacting from my own hurt inner child rather than being the mature adult when I promised to be a good parent. That's for all parents.
Yes. And we talked about that in chapter 13 too. We had that discussion in our last chapter review about
being an adult.
Being an adult.
We've had to do it. I mean, all mothers have to do this, and fathers, is be the adult to your kids. Like, you're not the buddy, you're not the kid suffering. You have to be the adult. And it's not an easy thing to do when there's pain involved coming at you.
Not at all. And when you think about, often in this baby scoop era, for example, like my parents were 23 when they adopted me. I mean,
kids, that's my son's age.
To have that kind of emotional maturity, to be able to do that. I
barely have that emotional maturity.
And right, we didn't have our sons until later. Yeah. So
yes, I know. I was almost 30 and it was not easy. It was still very difficult. Well, and then she gets into a whole bunch of things on actually the breaking down of everything, which you and I probably should not do on the podcast because it's a lot of stuff. But
yeah, it's just the barriers to integration, where she goes into fear. Highly recommend this book again to people.
Gosh.
The guilt and shame. These are all barriers to getting better.
Yeah. And one of the things I thought that I do want to bring up, because I'm just looking at it now, I thought it was interesting about how people need to find their spiritual selves again. And that doesn't always mean religion. So we're not preaching that. That could be your nature connection, whatever God or nature is to you. But she says the reason people don't is because of the moral judgment.
Exactly. Well, if there was a God, how could he have all these babies being taken away from their mothers?
Yes. And then also she talks about how religion can exercise a moral control over people too. So it's oh, you should feel shame and bad. But she's like, that's not God. That's not spirituality. That's
humans
controlling people.
People controlling people.
And I thought that was neat, because we've had guests on our show who have found their spirituality again. And, I think it's important just from that point of view to kind of say, you're not a bad person on any side of this. There's no judgment.
Right.
That's big.
Very big. It's a healing. We're into the healing now, which is great.
We're finally into the healing, Sarah.
Yes. Gosh, next chapter, it's going to be the conclusions. Part 4 will be.
I can't believe it.
Just a couple more chapters, listeners, and then we'll be moving on to another book, which we will discuss.
Yes, we will. And we're going to have a cool wrap up finale with a good guest. And we have some awesome guests left in this book. So
yes,
I'm excited. Let's get to our guest.
Let's get to our guest. Yay. Exciting.
It is.
Okay.
See ya.
See ya.